Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is Nathan Young, founder at More Leads Online. I'm actually here with Tim Brown, who is the CEO and founder of Hook Agency, who does very similar work to us, have just been at it way longer and grown their company way bigger than us. So I'm here to learn just as much today as I'm anxious to hear what he has to say for anyone listening about the home services. So Tim, tell us about yourself and how you ended up in this position in this field.
Yeah, so I was a marketing director at another marketing agency, and I was passionate about making the service better that we were offering, because I want to be proud of what we're selling and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I went out on my own, a little bit of a resentment, a little bit of a, hey, let's make something cooler, a little bit of I want equity in something, right? And home services, construction, and all that became a niche for us because I was really friendly with a couple of our clients that were in those niches, like roofer, et cetera, and pavement company. And I liked them all a lot. Like I enjoyed hanging out with, or like talking to them, and I just appreciated their vibe. And they needed what we had more. So like the need in a local business like that with a high customer lifetime value is very high, and it's worth more. So I found that we're just basically more useful. And I'm kind of always in that mindset of like, how do we become more useful? Like, I'm very passionate about making our thing as useful as possible. And just before this, we were just talking about how crucial it is to, like, when we're changing the services, or like our services as marketing agencies, to optimize it around the client need, to like turn those knobs around the client need, and not to turn it around our need. Because we can figure out, once we get the machine rolling and it's able to create leads like you guys are doing and like we're working on, is once you get the machine cranking, then there's ways to monetize that. If you make the clients win, then it's not that hard to sell. So like we're basically always kind of tweaking the knobs to try to make it crank out more leads for our clients.
Oh, that's awesome. We all know, again, of that client focus, but specifically our types of clients, right? So we're here basically saying we champion the same concept, which is the trade service, the home services. And we, partially because we know the home services and trades make the world turn. Like clearly we're techie guys, but without the trade, like you're in a building, I'm in a building.
Respect, deep respect for the people that are in these trade services. And I like that it's a physical thing. If you think about digital marketing, we're out here in this computer world, we're tapping away, we've got a podcast and a video, and yay, but then they've got something so solid and tangible, and it just feels good to market something solid and tangible, versus sometimes we're marketing like a SaaS, because software as a service thing, and it just doesn't feel tangible. So I'm kind of jealous of our clients in a way, like the fact that they get to nail a hammer, like a lot of the guys that we're working with are the owners of a company, but they have those tangible skills, and they could always fall back on like specifically like hammering the thing and the HVAC stuff and the plumbing stuff and all that. And like they have such a tangible thing, and that's almost more fulfilling in a way to work with your hands. So I'm just jealous of them sometimes.
Well, so obviously we appreciate them. But as awesome as they are, we also know that they're facing gigantic issues, right? So my last guest was Amanda Booman, who is the owner of the Home Mag Minnesota, but then also she has her own residential services company in Minnesota. And she was just talking about like material sourcing right now is a major issue, specifically this year, obviously. But and setting expectations with customers, not just because of that, but it's exacerbated that, is so huge. In your opinion, the top 3 issues facing home services right now, would you agree with those 2 and add one? Or would you say, no, I actually think these are the 3 we're hearing about the most?
What was the first one?
She said material sourcing and expectation setting.
I think expectation setting for sure. Another one I'd say is hiring great people and keeping them. And I'll go with your third one just because I actually don't fully understand that. I haven't heard it a ton from our clients.
Okay.
I mean, I've heard rumblings, like we've got a lot of roofing companies, and I've heard rumblings of like lumber is more expensive right now and stuff like that. So certainly I empathize with that. I haven't heard anything that's really like holding up the line yet. It's just prices are going up in certain materials, but I just don't know enough about that to know. But certainly I think hiring great people and like scaling problems of like HR issues that I don't understand half of anyways, even though we've got some people they have a hard time with as well. And sometimes, it's kind of a run and gun thing, especially like when we talk to all these exterior companies. They're kind of gruff sometimes. They're awesome guys, but they're sometimes like a little bit like forward or whatever. And like, being that you don't want to lose your people because you're too forward. So it's like kind of a weird thing because you're like, you also don't want to have to tiptoe your whole life. So I think HR is the other one, in my opinion. Attracting and retaining great talent.
Specifically, just to recap, we said expectation setting, hiring, training, retaining, and then you would probably leave it there. This material sourcing thing sounds like a pain, but not quite as tangible.
Well, I
so
haven't
far
heard
in
it
your
as much.
experience.
You might be right. Maybe the roofer clients just know that I don't care that much. I don't dig into their business quite that much unless it starts to like affect their ability to fulfill. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
But
that was
like we should mention here, getting great leads is a pretty like that should go without saying, considering what the name of the podcast is.
Well, so, yeah, of course. Some of these things I'm just taking for granted.
Yeah.
So like just to showcase a little more, you've been doing this for a while. You actually, before we became people who were like, oh, we're digital marketing people dedicated to serving the home services, getting them better leads, which is our shtick, right? Yeah. This is who we serve and how we serve them. You were actually in the digital game before Hook Agency. Like you've been doing this for a while. Yeah.
So I've been doing it for about 8 or 9 years. And I started on web design and development. So I've developed for like everybody from like big orthopedic company around here, Trio Orthopedic, to like Mall of America. I worked on their website. So I've done a lot of random, like I was a website designer and developer, and I designed and developed, small to big sites. And then before that, even I was like social media guy at like a restaurant. Like I was a busboy, and then I was a social media guy. So I'd go and take a crazy picture. And then that's kind of like the first real job that I had where they were paying me for some marketing though. So I think back on that time fondly because they let me work at corporate for a bit after I did good at the first restaurant. So
nice.
Broke in that way, but I did go to school for web design.
Awesome. I personally, before I got into digital, I actually worked for several years, just grinding concrete floors. Like we installed and ground concrete floors. Specifically, I worked with like cement and terrazzo.
Yeah.
And did a lot of like tile installations. Of course, I wasn't a tile installer because I was part of a union. Anyway, that's all a whole special different conversation. But so I did that for years. But like you're getting on ladders too now, right? Yeah.
So I've done a little bit of roofing like recently. Like our clients are really cool. So they let us go on adventures with them sometimes. So I went in, it was a 90-degree plus day out, and I got to roof a house with one of our roofing clients. And I also did spend, this video hasn't come out yet, but I did spend a whole day with a roofing salesperson, and that will be out soon on our YouTube, if you look up Hook Agency on YouTube. And I just empathize with a lot of the things. Like that was an interesting experience because I think of salespeople in these businesses as, it doesn't sound that hard from the outside. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
I'm respecting the guy who nails the shingles, and I'm like, sales guys, sometimes I'm like, whatever. But hanging out with the sales guy all day, I really grew to respect, especially this particular sales guy was so good at, like, he goes to, Lowe's or whatever, and he's like matching the items. He has to do a lot of paperwork. There's all kinds of expectation setting that he has to do. He has to actually like inspect certain elements of the roofing and different things where he's literally up there. He has to teach the people about it and assess it and know a lot about it. So no one could just like randomly jump into this job, at least the way this guy did it. It would take a lot of training. And so I basically just like, I had no idea. So I basically was like kind of surprised by that. I also was a little bit surprised by the amount of money that the man made. And I was also proud. Like I was proud that like my client is employing somebody like that who's very well employed, and it's a very respectable like industry. I don't know what I thought I was going to see, but it's just an interesting thing to get more context. And like I basically, dude, what I like about small businesses and trade companies, like I love like. It feels like I'm being like cheesy, but I love that they employ a bunch of people, and I love that I like that people are like building families off these businesses, and that's just cool to see. And it's also cool to see people thriving off these businesses. So like, it's just funny because like sometimes trades get weird bad raps, and it's kind of bullshit.
I won't go down this rabbit hole too far, but like. I actually started a roofing company with a couple of my friends about a year ago. And so like I'm doing some of the marketing strategy. Nice. One of my friends is the more focused ops guy. He's doing sales, and then he's running the actual builds. Mm-hmm. And then of course we have a finance guy, and just so every couple of weeks we're checking in with the guy who's doing sales and doing the training and doing the roofs, just like you're talking about. And we're just like, oh my gosh, like, the amount of times that he would come back to us and chat with us and be like, so I had 6 conversations where like I walked in and the first question out of their mouth was like, how are you screwing me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to be fair, as digital marketing guys, I feel like a lot of, I know the feeling.
Yeah. No, we've had some of that. And that's, we should get into a little bit of like tactical stuff for these guys so we can try to be useful to them. Like you're talking about expectation setting. There's a lot of crossover when it comes to digital marketing. Right. with these home services providers, with these trade companies, you have to figure out ways to make, like marketing is part of that. Marketing is part of setting an expectation. And I can't just list out value propositions and process, because we want to talk about all those things on your website. We want to talk about unique value propositions. And that's hard in the trade services too, because a lot of it is commodities. I was just talking to a venture capitalist friend or whatever, like that was today. We were talking about roofing, and he goes, so these guys aren't differentiated, huh? Because he's thinking about roofing or like buying an $80 million roofing company. And he said, so these people aren't really differentiated. This is kind of a commodity, right, Tim? And I'm like, damn, that's harsh. But he was, from an outside, dude, these guys all look the same.
Yes.
So the biggest challenge from my mind in a marketing way is, how the fuck are we going to make this a little bit different than your competitor? And you're all the same. You're all saying customer service. You're all saying we do fast turnaround. We all say we do, we're going to protect your family and keep them dry. Like we're all saying the same shit. So how do we fix this? How do we change the conversation from, you're just one of these guys and I'll check it by price, to
right.
I can't not work with Chipmunk Roofing because, whatever, like what is the reason? What is that reason? And it goes deeper than marketing. It has to go deeper than marketing. It goes I think you touched on this. So we know, right, again, because we're marketers, we have clients, we know that there are home service companies that do want to grow, they do want more leads, but we've started to catch, and you mentioned this, a huge problem is hiring. And so just you're a business owner, you are talking to your clients. How are you finding the right people right now at Hook Agency? I hire for soft skills, and I train in the hard skills, and I know a lot of the hard skills. So that's a good place to start. Like you have to, from my point of view, 0 to 20 people, you have to be pretty involved in the growth of your people. and you need to hire for things that are going to take a while to kind of express themselves. That's my experience. And you have to facilitate people learning along the way. So I was going to say, marketing goes deeper than just the surface level, and like the processes and the differentiating, you have to get down to processes. You have to showcase your checklists for quality control. You have to actually define you could brand those checklists and call them something, and then make sure you're talking about that and everything. So the other guy doesn't have it, they don't get the job. And if you're $5,000 more, they still want to work with you. And with employees, I want my employees to be involved in building those processes. They also need to, from the very get, I just had an interview today with somebody who's a very smart person. We were talking about this before the podcast, an HVAC, somebody who'd worked in a family business for an HVAC company, and I'm talking to her about maybe being a salesperson for us, / an onboarding specialist. And what I said to her is, I said, you would be involved from month 3 and on up with building our standard operating procedures. We're not just hiring people to follow directions, we're hiring people to build directions.
Yeah.
And the department heads are all expected to modify those standard operating procedures every year and sign off on them. Mm-hmm. And when I hire with that in mind, I'm kind of looking at their faces. What is that? Does that sound good to you? Like, I want people that want to be part of something to steer it. Now that's going to change if we get to 20, 30 people, when not everyone is going to be able to steer it. But right now it's a big differentiating feature for us as we hire, that you get to change where this thing goes. I want it to go somewhere cool, but my vision is not crystal clear yet. My vision is also incorporating what you want. And it's not just about profit. The business has to be bigger than just profit. And I am interested in what you want and what your long-term vision is. Where do you want to go? What is energizing to you? Those things, to me, like if you're talking about those things, people will share with you. And you have to have, like, I think to attract really good employees for your business, you have to have core values that are baked into everything. Yeah. So you need to come up with whatever. I think 3 to 5 is a great number. Core values that you really stick to, and maybe are a little bit weird, but they really do go with your culture. And then talk about them in the hiring process. Hire and fire based on them. Mm-hmm. I'm like Michael Scott from The Office. I don't like to fire people. I like to hire and inspire people.
Yeah.
But I think having those key, value, to me, it's like core values are really, really key. And you should kind of think about them both with, for you and I, as marketing agency owners, we should also think about for our clients. Because one of our core values is scrappy. If our client is not scrappy, if they're going to nickel and dime us and make us do 5 rounds of revisions on a blog post, I'm not going to be able to make them get leads, because it's just too much time spent on the nitty gritty. And I'm sorry, but that little nitty gritty stuff, that's not going to create leads. We need brute force.
Right.
We need power and frequency. We need serious effort on a regular basis in a habitual, systematic way, or we're not going to create leads for you. So what I would stress to people is hire somebody you trust, and then really let them go and just keep their feet to the fire every 6 months or so about that the result is increasing. Don't get so. And this goes for hiring employees too. Don't get so micromanagey that you micromanage them out of their energy. That you micromanage them so hard that they barely even have any motivation anymore. So
some key takeaways, I'm going to try to encapsulate a few of the things that you said. The first one is when you're hiring, and this goes back to the first thing you said, be very clear about the expectations for the person because of both processes and what you expect them to be able to do. And you said, look at their face, see if they're excited about the realities that you're talking to them about. Hey,
because they'll say all the things. They'll say they love it.
They'll say all the things. Yeah. Right. Everyone lies in an interview. Just period. Like,
so read between the lines. You have to read between the lines, and you have to like ask hard questions a little bit in the interview too.
And then the other thing it sounds like you said is have core values that go all the way down. So don't be your core values are not just some thing on the wall. They're the way that you live. You hire, you fire, including clients.
Yeah.
And lastly, you said, don't micromanage. Let the system do that.
Yeah.
Adjust the system, and the people will either adjust or they'll fail to meet the expectations.
Yeah. And I think like it comes down to creating a motivating environment. Like if people are not meeting your expectations, yes, you might need to increase the amount of like process you have in place. And it's more about increasing the process from my point of view. If you have the right people, it's about increasing the processes and making the process better. Maybe you need to do, there needs to be more systematic training or feedback loops from departments to each other. Mm-hmm. But then, maybe to sales to implementation, you've got the guy out in the field making sure there's process control. And then that sales guy needs to have a better feedback loop with that person. That might be the case, or you just need to create a more motivating environment. Maybe it's not very motivating because you've got one, like sad sack. Just
sounds like you guys have a motivating environment.
Yeah, exactly. We got people yelling in the background. That's Smash Brothers.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, basically the fact that people want to be there and people want to encourage each other. I think a big one for us, we've implemented like pat on the back slips. This goes to my my father-in-law who passed this past December, and he had a drawer just smack full of thank you notes that people had given him throughout his life. And reading through those after first of all, this guy's a freaking doctor, and he literally like saved people's lives and stuff. But he also like every interaction he had with people was like about them, and he cared.
Yeah.
And he also like his hospital had these pat on the back slips that were just like this. That's a system that you can put in place in your business to then, hey, let's try to do these on a regular basis, and then people can save them. And like it energizes you. Encouragement energizes people. It's not just about millennials. It's not just about
it's just a human thing, right?
Yeah, soft culture or anything. It's really just it makes us all more emotionally resilient and tough if we can actually hear what we did well sometimes.
Yeah.
So helping people by encouraging them and helping them encourage each other, that will be more motivating. And I think sometimes the way we do it is a little thin. I think we could do it in a little bit more of a substantive way. But I am excited to get better at it.
Well said. So we this actually plays a little bit into sort of our role as marketers, and then what you're saying, right, which is in the hiring space, because inherently we have some common traits. No matter what, which are like we're business owners, we're running certain systems, we're working with other people. How are you feeling like along those lines, changing to a little more operational focus? We're seeing an increase in demand. I'm gonna bring this around. We're seeing an increased demand for trade services, and with that, like this increased specificity in the jobs that guys want to take on. And that goes down to the employees, right? So like you said, scrappy, this kind of tackles both the getting of leads, but also the how are we guiding the customer to set expectations and our employees to not just like, sometimes you have to do a job even if you don't want to, because like you signed up to do that job and that's what kind of company you are. And like, you don't get to turn down everything you don't particularly love. And so how are you tackling that as someone pushing out the first messaging about the company that most people hear, both hires and customers?
Yeah. To me, it feels like a little like, maybe I'm hearing it wrong, but I hear sometimes when people talk to us about a leads problem, like these aren't the kind of leads we want, or we want these kind of leads. It's kind of a sales problem, not a marketing problem. Like I'm certainly collaborative with our clients about what they want, but at the end of the day, you have to have sales processes in place to filter and to sort. And maybe your vision isn't big enough if you're not willing to take something that's 80% of what your ideal customer is. Like, I want to grow. So like that's one thing where we kind of try to filter our clients on the front end. Are you the kind of client that wants to grow, or are you ready to stay at 1.7 million for the rest of your life? You know what I mean? Like, if you're ready to stay, we're not the agency for you. We're one of those companies that's helping people grow aggressively. Usually the people that want to grow aggressively are cool with the 80%, and they're kind of good at motivating their employees around the 80%. I think on the other hand, for a bad lead, right? You have to get better about figuring that out on your sales process, not about your, it's not about the marketing. You shouldn't be trying to stop bad leads. You should be trying to filter them in the sales process, maybe with a follow-up questionnaire, maybe with an extra hoop that they have to jump through, and then you can decide whether you want to reach out if they don't jump through the hoop. But I think that there's like, we do that. We filter with a questionnaire. Okay. And then sometimes before the questionnaire hits our inbox, we'll call them up. So it's like the questionnaire is supposed to filter them, but we can also make a decision to kind of like e-brake and like go and grab them or like talk to them, you know, like to me, that's kind of it's a sales problem, not a marketing problem from my point of view.
You're touching on the next thing that so we kind of jokingly call ourselves operations in disguise. We're like, yeah, we're a marketing company, AKA operations in disguise. Because we feel like if we're doing our job well, that's really what we become. We become someone who goes, well, we listened to your calls and this is what happened on the call. And this person was calling for the third time and said, well, they left a voicemail. They never got a call back. This is the third time they've called.
I've heard this all before, dude. I've heard it before. How, like, you gotta be honest with me. How big is the company you're thinking of right now?
1.5 million.
How many people?
10.
Do they feel like they want to grow or something?
I don't think they do.
That's the motivation thing, man. You can't fix, it sucks, but you can't fix lack of motivation. And no offense, like there's nothing wrong with a 10-person company, but there is something wrong with like having a negative experience out there in the world. Even if you want to stay a $1.5 million company, I just think it's about motivation. It's about like, you want to leave a good legacy, and part of that legacy is not like completely sloughing off customers, even if they're not perfect for you. And I think it comes down to kind of like, how do we handle clients that are customers that aren't perfect for us? We need to have a policy around that. Maybe you need to talk to them about, let's write up a couple paragraphs and like a couple referral partners for smaller companies than us. Because it really comes down to reputation. Every single conversation that your customer service representative or your salesperson has with somebody affects your reputation. And reputation matters a lot more than you think. And reputation can really hurt your business. And we've had 5-star reviews, at least like 2 or 3 of them, from people where it was literally just an intro call with our salesperson and we referred them to someone else. Because they were so surprised that we were so generous with our contacts and with our time, even though we weren't the perfect fit. So play for the 5-star review. Don't just play for the closed business, because the 5-star review will create 3 more closed businesses later on down the line. You're planting 5 stars. You're planting, think about the 5 stars and then the business will come. It's not always about that one conversation. I get that you're crabby or like you got some like operations problems today or something like that. Like something's going on. The guy didn't show up. The subcontractor argued with the client or something. But you have to find a way to chill out, and you have to find a way to be really cool to the customers. I know that's harsh. I know it sucks. I don't want to do it half the time, but I want our reputation to be good.
Right.
You have to be, I just think the reputation matters than most people think. Like, we think because it's digital or because it's a phone call or something like that, it kind of matters, but not really, but it still matters a lot. And basically just reputation, and every small interaction is reputation.
Well, and so my next question is, I think, plays into a little bit more tactical level, but I'll be curious to see how you connect these two things together. In my conversations with everyone on the show so far, I've asked like what marketing thing they've done and what has done the best for them. And every time I ask this question so far, people are answering, well, it's a lot of different pieces together. And that's, again, what I hear what you're saying right now. But so it's not just one thing, but everyone is basically saying it's a mix of things. Some of the ethereal things are really the difference maker. Customer service goes hilariously further than you think that it does.
Yes.
It stays like a ripple in the pond, even though you don't see it. You think you have infinite potential leads, you don't. And the neighborhoods are much tighter than you think they are.
Yeah.
So if you burn Sally when she calls and asks a dumb question about getting some kind of pipe replaced or something, and you answer her kind of like stilted, that's going to impact you down the line. Yeah. So then,
and all your people are part of that. That's why soft skills are so important. Like, so that's why I prioritize it in a lot of ways too, because we can teach you the specifics, but if you can't be nice to people, I can't fix that. That's troubling, and it's going to fuck us up. And like, ultimately at the end of the day, it's how people feel after they interact with us. Like if you don't feel great after we finish this chat,
sad.
I will have failed. And I want people to feel good after they interact with us. It's not about like being cool or being popular or being like whatever. It's about like literally, dude, I want today to be good, and I want you to have a good day. And we had to think about that. It's such a simple thing, but it matters way more for business than we think. That's why you see such charismatic people like if you look at these big companies, right? It seems like there's these guys at the top. Like we talked about Will Reynolds.
Yeah.
He exudes energy. When you get done talking to him, you feel energized, right? Like I want to be that for people, and I want I want our clients to think that way. But basically, like that's a goal. That's a goal. So like when you get done with chatting with somebody, that they feel energized, and that. I think a lot of these guys are that way. A lot of like my roofing clients, a lot of these guys, they have that vibe, and that's partly why they're good salespeople. Yeah. And that's also partly why their business is growing and why their like employees want to be around them. And I'm not saying we have to be perfect on it, man. I'm sure I piss off my employees sometimes, but in general, like we want to be kind of energizing to our clients and our customers. And
so along those exact same lines, like what do you think is the biggest, most challenging thing that you've experienced helping contractors with their marketing? Is it that?
Excuse me, I'm just thinking.
Take your time.
I'm just going to say it's filtering for us. It's filtering the people who want to grow from the people who don't really care and are just trying to do something for glamour or their own, just like they just want, people that just want a website and just want it to look pretty and all that versus the people that want to grow. And like really for me, it's been really filtering that out because I've wasted contractors and like home services people's time. I wasted their time. I failed wildly because I spent time with them. I was working towards more leads. And then at the end of the day, I found out they didn't really care about more leads. They really cared about making something. They wanted to make it pretty, and they were stuck at 10 people, and they were going to be at 10 people for the next 20 years. I should have asked more questions up front because ultimately we're not a great fit for that. Like our value proposition does not fit in with that. So I should have filtered myself out.
Interesting.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with a 10-person company. And like, it's cool. And honestly, I'm jealous that you're satisfied with that. that's probably the biggest hard part to me. The other one is just the quickness that people need results. Because the best marketing activities that you can do take a long time.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean try to be aggressive, and it doesn't mean don't, tell me when you want it quicker and all that. But like, if you're going to give up in 6 months when your competitor is going to 8 months, and the clients that we've had for 5 years and gone to 5 million from, whatever, $30,000 a year when they were out of their parents' basement. I'm sorry, but that like stick with itness, like when you find something that works, you got to hammer it and you got to keep on going at it. You can't stop just because you're impatient and you see that Google ads will get you something quick. Like, you got to find the things that work and then crank on them. And like, a lot of people are impatient. So short answer, impatience.
Gotcha. Well, and that actually answers my other question. I was going to say, what's the biggest aha moment your clients are coming back to you with? You wish you could get them to faster. And you just answered that question, which is, I wish I could get them to see that it takes time.
Yeah. The aha is always the first couple leads. The first couple leads that come from organic, if they haven't had a ton of that. Or the 40% increase in leads or whatever it happens to be, like, that's the real aha. Otherwise, they most of our clients, to be honest, don't even understand half this stuff. And they don't want to half the time. I mean, if I'm honest, I think it's a good thing to do if you can, to like blog and like figure out learn a little bit about SEO. But at the end of the day, some of our smartest clients just delegate, and they know they're not the expert.
Well, that's why I said, I think you said it in that you are saying that business owners who utilize marketing well, the biggest aha moment is when they go, it requires consistency to get real results.
That's beautiful. I love it.
So awesome. Well, then I want to move to the last section of our conversation, which is a section I call quickfire questions. And I totally stole that name from another awesome podcaster.
Nice.
But so I'm gonna run through 15 questions. This is off the top of your head. There's no like long conversation about this. This is like yes, no, do that, don't do that. So kind of like saving context for later, and I've tried to structure them so that we can do that. So I'm just going to ask these questions. You're going to answer super fast, and then we're going to run right through them.
Let's go for it.
Awesome. So texts schedule themselves or use dispatch?
Use dispatch.
Scheduling software you use or recommend?
Calendly.
Let me rephrase this last one. Scheduling software your clients are happiest with?
I have some people on Calendly that like it.
Oh, awesome. Contractors on Calendly?
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's awesome. In contracting companies, allow voicemails?
Yes.
Okay. Required callback time, you think, from a voicemail?
I mean, I don't know if I'd publish it, but I'd say 4 hours in a business day, next business day.
If you could take a guess, how often do you think clients book a job from a voicemail callback?
It's a brand impression, not a sales opportunity. I don't know. I'd say like it's more like you leave it just so that they knew who it was, and then you call back later.
Yeah. Sorry, I meant the customer leaving a voicemail, and you calling the customer back to try to get that business.
Oh, I think that's very possible. That's a really good sign if they leave a message, in my opinion.
Okay. Should you, as a contractor, allow contact forms?
Yes.
What kind of response time should you have for a contact form submission?
20 minutes in business day. Maybe autoresponders best.
Yep. Should you text customers, yes or no?
Yes.
Do you collect customer emails? I'm asking as a contracting company. Do you encourage contracting companies to collect customer emails?
Yes.
Do you encourage them to use them?
Yes.
In your personal opinion, Facebook or paid search if you only get to pick one?
Paid search.
Older or younger customers more loyal over time?
Younger.
Ask every customer for an honest review, yes or no?
No.
Interesting. Top 3 things you wish you could teach every homeowner about contracting services.
1, look at Google local reviews. 2, call 3. And 4, ask about quality control.
Top 3 books you'd recommend for home service leaders.
Profit First, Traction, Story Brand.
Oh, man. I have those on my desk behind me.
Nice.
Mike Michalowicz, Gino Wickman, Don Miller. I'm actually, fun fact, I'm a Story Brand certified guide.
Awesome. I love that.
Okay. I said I wasn't going to talk about this. Last question. Who should we interview next on this podcast?
Who should you interview next? Have you had Aaron on there yet? Aaron Eggert?
No.
Yeah, you should have him on there. Sales tips, man. Marketers need to get more hardcore about proliferating sales know-how, because I think sometimes contractors, home services people, they get excited by marketing and they're a little tired of sales, but they really, really could use some polishing up. So maybe Aaron would be a great next step.
That's a fantastic referral. All right. That's the end of quickfire questions. You did awesome. So we're going to wrap it up. First of all, let me say you were a fantastic guest. I had so much fun. Incredible value, both like we were talking before the podcast, and it was super valuable. Always so handy to learn things from people who have been there already. You know what I mean?
Well, sir, man. Well, I'm rooting for you, dude. I want to hear more about your growth over the next couple of years, and anything I can do to help, I want to be there. So
we're going to make sure that you're part of it.
Yeah,
you're stuck with me now.
Let's do it. I'm all about it. And like literally, dude, we give so many referrals too, just so you know, like I said that turning down business is an important key. You turn down a lot of business.
I'll keep that in mind.
All right.
Just before we shut it down, things that you want to plug, like if people want to get in touch with you, where do they go?
Go on LinkedIn and type in Tim Brown and then Hook Agency, Tim Brown Hook Agency. I post a lot on LinkedIn, more than any other platform, and I'm trying to be as generous as I possibly can on there. And then tim@hookagency.com is my email.
Awesome. And just one more time, anything else you want to plug before we walk away? I know you mentioned Will Reynolds and the books, and
absolutely. It's two little guides that you can check out. Our best content on our website, hookagency.com/local, which is this whole zombie infested guide about local services, because there's a lot of zombies out there. There's a lot of scams. So hookagency.com/local gives you all the zombies to avoid and how to get higher on Google Maps and stuff like that. And then one more thing, which is hookagency.com/leads. And it's this giant, beautiful guide on how to get more leads in 2020, soon to be 2021. I'll revise it. But it's just basically these are two very good kind of examples of content where it's we tricked it out to the gills with imagery, video, and just basically went hard. So if you're interested in seeing a couple examples of content marketing that went went maybe too hard, then check those out.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Tim, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. It was so much fun to talk to you. You've been an awesome guest. Tons of value.
Thanks for having me. Man, this is so fun. Appreciate you having me.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm going to shut it down, and thanks everybody for listening.